So I'm Jay Hoppola. I work for AARP here in Minnesota. We run a number of programs. Our membership association, we're representing people over the age of 50. We're definitely gearing up for the legislative session that starts in a few short weeks, and we'll be working on issues at the state legislature that affect your finances, that affect your health care, and many more issues that are important to people over the age of 50. We know that financial crime and financial security and all of these scams are very important to you. You're interested in these kind of issues, so are we. And that's why we run the Fraud Watch Network program, so folks can go online, aarp.org/fraudwatchnetwork, and we run a call center nationally. So, in fact, every week we get hundreds of phone calls from people all across the country. They're reporting to us the type of scams that they're seeing. Oftentimes they need help sorting through the information they're receiving, and we provide that, help them figure out if it is a scam, where to report those scams, and also when people have lost money, they can call us, and we have volunteers who help them figure out how to proceed, make sure they don't lose any more money, and get some help. So that's our Fraud Watch Network program. Here in Minnesota, we put on events like this, and I work with a great group of volunteers that I'll bet you met on your way in today. We call them our fraud fighters. And you could be a fraud fighter too. We're always looking for more volunteers to join us. We have monthly meetings. And our goal is to take this kind of information that we learn. We go back to our dinner tables and our backyards, and we talk with our neighbors and our friends and our families about these issues, make sure that we're all better protected. So it's time to get on with our last speaker and our featured speaker of the day. His name's Brett Johnson. You'll meet him very shortly here. He has a very unique perspective on these financial crime issues, as you will hear. He's a cybersecurity consultant and works globally. He's traveled to Hawaii recently in the Middle East to attend some conferences and speak, and now he has the pleasure of joining us here in snowy Minnesota. So come on up, Brent. Let's welcome Brett to the stage. Thank you.
Jay, I appreciate it. Thank you again. So how is everyone this morning? I brought my wife with me. She's over at the mall doing some Christmas shopping. She is not used to snow. So I'm like, yeah, it's snow. She's like, I know it's snow. But I want to thank you guys for bringing me in today. I appreciate it. I truly do. I'm going to give some of my background. Then we're going to talk about cybercrime, cybersecurity, how these attacks happen, who the attackers are, how you can protect yourself from the type of person that I used to be. I'll have some room for some questions. We'll open that up as well. So I like to stick around. If anyone has any questions or wants to talk about anything, I try to make sure that I stick around so we can do that, all right? So with that being said, let's go ahead and get started. That is my United States Most Wanted picture. Yeah, I was in Las Vegas, Nevada. The night before, I'd stolen $160,000 out of ATMs, woke up the next morning, signed on to cartersmarket.com. There's my name, U.S. Most Wanted beside of it. There are things in life known as aha moments. This was more of an type moment. So I did what any normal person would do. I loaded up and I went to Disney World. Yeah, I really went to Disney World. Lasted about 6 weeks. The Secret Service, they came and got me. They arrested me. They sent me to prison. Then I escaped from prison. Well, I prefer not to think of it as escape. I think of it as the institution could no longer benefit me, so I decided to release myself on my own recognizance. That got me even more time. So I guess the question is, well, who is this numbnuts up here talking today? The answer is, the United States Secret Service called me the original Internet Godfather. Yeah. Now, what does it take to get that title? 39 felonies, because 38 just isn't enough. Placed on the United States Most Wanted list, I escaped from prison, and if that weren't enough, I built and ran the first organized cybercrime community. It's called Shadow Crew. It was a precursor of today's darknet, and darknet markets laid the foundation for the way modern cybercrime channels operate today. Those 39 felonies had to do with refining modern financial cybercrime as we now know it. Account takeovers, credit card theft, phishing schemes, stimulus fraud, tax return, identity theft, you name it, I'm that guy. Now, of course, that lands one in prison, deservedly so, and usually that's where the story ends. But I've been very fortunate. very fortunate. Through the help of my sister, my wife, and then finally the FBI, I was given the opportunity to turn my life around, and I took it. Today, I'll get to that in a second. Today, I'm this guy. I'll go back to Shadow Crew in just a second. Today, I'm the first chief criminal officer on the planet. I'm an ambassador for AARP. I travel across the world to help protect businesses and consumers from that type of person that I used to be. And I want you guys to know, as I'm going on through this presentation, there's an entire story on my background that we don't have time enough to go into today. But I want you guys to know that the reason I'm able to do this, what separates me from where I am now and being back in prison for 20 years, is people like you taking the time and giving me the opportunity to speak. And I want you to know I appreciate that. So if you've got any questions, anything to talk about, I'm more than happy to stick around and answer every single thing that you've got or want to talk about, okay? I want to go back to Shadow Crew for just a second. I come from Eastern Kentucky, so cybercrime was not my start of crime, all right? It was not. My criminal career began much earlier, when I was 10 years old. That's when my life of crime begins. I'm from Eastern Kentucky. Eastern Kentucky is one of these areas like the Panhandle of Florida, parts of Louisiana, that if you're not fortunate enough to have a job, you may be involved in some sort of scam, hustle, fraud, whatever you want to call it. My mother was basically the captain of the entire fraud industry. And I mean no crime too big or too small. This is a woman who at one point, she steals a 108,000-pound Caterpillar D9 bulldozer. Another point, she takes a slip and fall in a convenience store, tries to sue the owner. That's mommy. We had a neighbor she acted as a pimp for. That's my mom. My dad was and my dad is a good man. He just forgot about it for a time. He was so scared of my mom leaving that he became the enabler. If she wanted to commit a crime, he would co-sign on to it. If she wanted to abuse someone, he wouldn't step in the way. And she was an abusive parent. I'm not talking about just physical. She could be physical. I'm talking about mental, emotional, verbal negligence across the board. My mom used to bring men home in front of my dad. My dad would sit there and cry, beg her not to do it, and she would do it anyway. Finally, she leaves my father. I was 10, my sister Denise was 9. We were in Panama City, Florida. We moved from Panama City back to Hazard, Kentucky, and my mom kept up those partying ways. Sometimes she'd take me and my sister with her. She'd leave us in the car. She went and partied. Sometimes we'd wait in the living room as she'd adjourn to the bedroom. Most of the time, she just left us at home. And I'm the kid that gets the worst parts from my mom and my dad. From my mom, of course, I get that criminal mindset. From my father, I get that fear of being abandoned, of the people that I love leaving. So I'm the kid, mom had been gone for a few days. I'm the kid that post up at the window, looking outside, see if mom was coming home. Sometimes I'd walk out into the driveway, see if she's driving down the street. Denise, my sister, 9 years old. She wasn't like that. She was just the kid who was angry. So mom had been gone for a few days. We didn't have any food in the house. Denise walks in one day. She's got this pack of pork chops in her hand. And I'm like, where'd you get that? And she's like, I stole it. And I'm like, show me how you did that. So she takes me over, shows me how she steals food. And I'm like, best idea ever. Let's do that. So we start stealing food. Look across the way. Kmart's across the way. Kmart's got more than food. So it becomes this perverted form of Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Books, games, jewelry, music, toys. Yes! Until mom comes home, sees all the stolen loot, asks where it came from. Now, when you're 10 years old, you can't lie very well. I stood up. We found it. She's like, no, you didn't find that. My sister Denise, she never lies at all. Denise stands up. She's half proud. She's half pissed off. We stole it. My mom looks at my sister, show me how you did that. And she joins us. Not only does she join us, but she goes to get her mother to join us as well. We become this intergenerational shoplifting ring in Eastern Kentucky. Used to take these road trips. They'd go to JCPenney's and steal clothes and jewelry. I go to the bookstore and steal books because it's the guy that I am. Here's the thing. I don't want you guys to think that I'm saying that my childhood resulted in my choices as an adult. That is not true. My choices as an adult are mine. I chose when I became an adult to victimize people. When you're a child, you can't help that. You're going to do what the adults in your circle are doing. But when I became an adult, oh yeah, that's all me. My sister, for example, she had the exact same upbringing that I did. Other than that one shoplifting experience, she goes off to be a great teacher, a great parent, a great citizen overall. Me, I'm just the guy that kept on going. And as I kept on going, I got more and more involved in the types of scams and hustles and frauds that not only my mom, but every single member on that side of the family was committing. I grew up knowing how to do charity fraud, knowing how to do insurance fraud, burning homes for cash, faking accidents, faking stolen cars, breaking and entering, trafficking drugs, illegally strip mining coal, forging documents, you name it. I grew up knowing how to do that. Until finally, I faked a car accident, mid-20s, enough to get the money to get married. Moved from Hazard, Kentucky to Lexington, Kentucky to go to university. And again, I'm the kid. I get the worst parts from my mom and my dad, that fear of being abandoned. I've never been able to show love in a healthy way in a relationship. So I told my wife, I was like, hey, look. You just worry about going to school. No, don't worry about getting a job. I got it. No, don't worry about the cooking or cleaning either. Kind of a control freak too. So here I am, 18-hour class load, all the cooking, all the cleaning, 60-hour-a-week job. Something had to give. What gave was the job. Well, with that proclivity toward fraud, you got to eat. Didn't really know how I was going to make the ends meet. I was doing these little scams around Lexington, Kentucky. Finally, I found the internet. And then I found eBay. Man, I like eBay. Didn't really know how to make money on eBay. Fortunately, Bill O'Reilly was around. He used to host Inside Edition back then, this little 30-minute TV news tabloid show, and they were profiling these things called Beanie Babies. How many people remember Beanie Babies? High-dollar collectible, mid to late 90s. The one they were profiling was Peanut, the royal blue elephant, selling for $1,500. I'm sitting there watching it like, $1,500? I need to find me a Peanut. Skip class the next day. Go around to all the little shops looking for Peanut. Takes me about 3 hours because I'm kind of naive. Takes me about 3 hours to figure out, well, idiot, he's not in the shops. His ass is on eBay for $1,500. But they did have these little gray Beanie Baby elephants for $8. Buy a gray Beanie Baby elephant for $8. Stop by a Kroger on the way home, pick up a pack of blue Rip dye, go home and try to dye the little guy. Turns out they're made out of polyester, don't hold the dye very well. Get them out of the bath, look like they've got the mange. Yeah, but here's the thing. I ripped a lady off of $1,500. Found a picture of a real one online. Posted it. She thought I had the real thing. She wins the bid. As soon as she wins the bid, social engineering kicks in. See, here's the thing about cybercrime. For cybercrime to succeed, social engineering is a necessity. I have to get you to trust me in order for me to get you to do what I want you to do. So as a child, I became a social engineer in order to survive my parental environments. All right? Most experienced cyber criminals do the same thing. Later on, as adults, we choose to use those tools to victimize other people. So she wins the bid. I want to put her on the defensive, not me. So I send her a message. Hey, lady, congratulations, you win. Here's the thing. We've never done any business before. I don't even know if I can trust you. What I need you to do is go down to the U.S. Postal Service, pick up a couple of money orders totaling $1,500. They're issued by the United States government. They protect you. They protect me. You send those to me. Once I get those, I'll send you your animal. She believed that. She sends me the money orders. I get them, cash them out, send her this creature in the mail, immediately get a phone call. This is not what I ordered. My response, lady, you ordered a blue elephant. I sent you a blue-ish elephant. And right there is the first lesson of cybercrime. That lesson is, if you delay a victim long enough, if you just keep putting them off, a lot of them get so exasperated, they throw their hands in the air, they walk away, you don't hear from them again, and guess what? They don't complain to law enforcement. They don't complain to law enforcement. First lesson of cybercrime. That's the first lesson that most online criminals learn right there. They don't complain to law enforcement. My victim did not, and I kept going. And as I kept going, I got better at understanding the dynamics of online fraud. Got to where I was selling mod chips. Mod chips turned into programming 18-inch RCA satellite systems. You can pull the card out of it, program it, turn on all the channels. Started doing that. At about the same time, a Canadian judge ruled it was legal for Canadian citizens to pirate those signals. He actually said it in court. Since my citizens, since they can't buy the system up here, it's legal for you to pirate it. Well, what happens is, in the overnight United States, little cottage industry pops up. You go down to Best Buy, buy the system for $100, take it out in the parking lot, open it up, pull the system out, pull the card out, throw the system away, program the card, ship it to Canada, $500 a pop. Started doing that, making a lot of money. Had so many orders, could not fill them all. Thought to myself, and I mean quickly thought to myself, why do I need to fill any of them? They're in Canada. I'm down here. Who are they going to complain to? It's illegal. So I didn't fill any of the orders, stole even more money. Got worried about how much was coming in. Figured the best thing I could do is get a fake driver's license, use that to open up a bank account, launder the money through that, cash out at the ATM. No idea where I was going to get a fake ID. So I got online. Looked around, thought I found a guy, sent him $200, sent him my picture, he rips me off. Yeah. I laugh about it, but I'm still pissed off about that today. Needless to say, I didn't complain to law enforcement either. The result, though, was Shadow Crew. I was so angry at that time that the result ends up being Shadow Crew. Before Shadow Crew, if you were looking at some sort of online crime, and all online crime is organized, it's never a single attacker which seeks to victimize you or your company. All online crime is organized. Before Shadow Crew, the only avenue you had to organize with other criminals was IRC, Internet Relay Chat, this rolling chat board where you had no idea who you were talking to, if they knew what they were talking about, if you could trust them, if they had a product or service, if they had it, if it worked, or if they were just going to rip you off because everyone there was a crook. Shadow Crew solved that. Shadow Crew gave a trust mechanism that criminals could use. Now you had a large communication channel in the form of a forum-type structure where individuals from different time zones could reference conversations days, weeks, months old, take part in those conversations, learn from those conversations. You knew by looking at someone's screen name what the skill level of that person was. If you could trust that person, learn from that person, work with that person. We had vouching systems in place, review systems in place, escrow systems in place, all with the singular purpose of establishing trust with one criminal and another when they would never meet, not know each other's real names, not even know what each other looked like. Shadow Crew was the first of its type. It was also the first eBay of criminal goods on the planet. Shadow Crew goes on to make the front cover of Forbes, August 2004, headline, Who's Stealing Your Identity? October 26, 2004, the United States Secret Service arrests 33 people, 6 countries, 6 hours. I'm the only guy publicly mentioned as getting away. They pick me up 4 months later, and they give me a job. And I'm the guy that continues to break the law from inside the Secret Service offices for the next 10 months. Until they find out about it, I take off on a cross-country crime spree, steal $600,000 in 4 months, make the United States Most Wanted list, go to Disney World, get arrested, sent to prison, escape from prison, get arrested again, finally serve out my time. As I said, there's a long story behind that, and it ends up with me being an ambassador for AARP, first chief criminal officer on the world. I'm in this week's Darknet Diaries, if anyone listens to that podcast. I lead a very fortunate life that I really don't deserve, but I'm really grateful to have. Moving along. When you look at why attackers, why are you being attacked? There's only really 3 motivations for online crime: status, cash, ideology. What do I mean by status? Can you do something that none of your other criminal peers can do? Realizing that some of these criminal communities are millions of members large. Let me give you an idea of how these things have advanced over the years. Shadow Crew gets shut down in 2004. We ended with 4,000 members. Fast forward to 2017. Alpha Bay is the largest criminal group on the planet, 240,000 members. Fast forward 2 more years to 2019. Just a dark web marketplace called Black Market is shut down, 1.15 million members. All of that is pre-pandemic. What happened during the pandemic? The government instituted stimulus programs with absolutely no security in place for at least 6 months. Every single fraudster on the planet, whatever fraud they were committing, they pivoted from that fraud to stimulus fraud, specifically unemployment fraud. Not only that, but you had all these massive numbers of new fraudsters coming into the environment as well. Now you've got single communities that are millions of members large. If you can do something that no one else in that community can do, then you gain the respect of that entire community, and that respect equates to profit. Can you use stolen credit card details to defraud Amazon or Apple when no one else can do that? If you can, you gain the respect of people. Can you build and deploy ransomware? Can you build and deploy skimmers? If you could do these types of things, then you gain the respect, which equates to more profit in those communities. Ideology. Is it possible you might be attacked because of your political beliefs? Well, I don't know about you guys, but I've been watching the news past 3 to 4 years, and it certainly seems like that. I wake up every morning, I tune into Fox News and CNN so I can start my day off pissed off at everybody. Yes, you can absolutely be attacked because of your beliefs. Most attacks, though, 98%, cash-based. Cash-based. Criminals are looking to profit. Easiest access that gives the largest return on the criminal investment. And that's fortunate because those types of attacks are the easiest attacks to combat. What are criminals looking for? Information, access, data, cash, information. What can I find out about you or your company? I worked with a virtual reality company a couple years ago. Had an attacker call into customer service, and the attacker social engineered the real names of the fraud team from that company. Once they did that, they found out the children's names. They started to do SWAT attacks. You guys know what that is? So it's when you call the police department and you say that, hey, John Doe over here at the house across from me, he's got his wife, a gun to her head. SWAT busts in. Sometimes people get killed, sometimes they don't. So they started to do SWAT attacks, bomb threats to the school. They made up fake websites about all the fraud team being criminals and everything else. And that attack continues to this day. So information. What can I find out about you? Can I call and trick you into giving me your social security number, your login credentials? Information, access. Can I call and get you to give me remote access to your computer? Can I get you to plug in a thumb drive on your computer? Data. Do you have something that I can steal? Do you invest in cryptocurrency? Can I get access to your computer and steal that data? Cash. Most of the time I'm wanting cash. Information, access, data, cash. Understand why an attacker is wanting to hit you, what they're wanting, and you'll understand how to design security to prevent that type of attack. I call this the criminal triangle. If you think about it, for cybercrime to succeed, 3 things have to take place. You have to gather data, you have to commit a crime, and then finally you have to cash it out. When I talk about gathering the data, that's the stolen PII. That's your social, your date of birth, your driver's license number, mother's maiden name. It's also any bank account information, your login credentials, but it's also any tool I may need to use. Spoofed phone calls, maybe a SOX 5 proxy. Maybe I'm physically located in South America someplace, but I need it to appear that I'm located in Minnesota. So I'll use a SOX 5 proxy. All that goes under the umbrella of gathering data. Once I have that done, I go off and commit the crime, and then finally cash that crime out. All 3 of these necessities have to work in conjunction. If they don't, the crime fails. The problem with that is that a single criminal, one attacker, can't do all 3 things. They can do one thing, sometimes 2. Very rarely can they do all 3, and there's a couple of reasons for that. The first is that specific criminal simply doesn't know how to do one of those things. Maybe they don't know how to do a man-in-the-middle attack. Maybe they don't know how to launch a phishing campaign, steal your credentials, something like that. Or maybe they can do it, but someone else on a marketplace is much better at it than they are. So that's number one, skill gap. The second reason that you don't see a criminal able to do all three things is because of a problem with geographic location. That criminal is simply in a geographic area where they cannot fulfill all three necessities. During the pandemic, because I like talking about pandemic fraud, during the pandemic, we had a lot of fraudsters that were hitting unemployment systems across all 50 states. Those fraudsters were in the United States, but they were also in the Ukraine, they were in Russia, they were in the EU, they were down in Brazil. Now here's the thing, they had all the data in the world because everyone's information is available. Committing the crime, very easy because there was absolutely no security in place whatsoever. In fact, the CARES Act took away what security was in place, all right? So there was no security in place. So the fraudsters had those two necessities done. But here's the problem. If I'm in the Ukraine and I'm filing unemployment claims for the state of Minnesota, yeah, I can file it. It will fund. But what happens when I go to withdraw that money and that money's been withdrawn in the Ukraine? That's a problem. So I have to rely on money mules stateside to withdraw that currency for me. So those are the reasons that you see that the three necessities is always multiple attackers seeking to victimize you or your company. What about the person themselves? I would argue for a criminal to engage in online crime, three things have to be inherent: willingness, knowledge, ego. What do I mean by willingness? Simply put, what is that criminal willing or not willing to do? Take an identity thief. I may be more than willing to compromise your identity in the back. Use your identity to open up new accounts, HELOC loans, student loan fraud, what have you. Cash out your retirement funds, everything else. But that same identity thief may not be willing to compromise the identity of a senior citizen and divert their Social Security payment from whatever bank account it's being deposited to over to a prepaid debit card they picked up at Walmart for $10. That crime is extremely easy to commit, but we don't see the numbers on it that would indicate such. Why? Why is because that moral compass sometimes points north just enough that that criminal realizes that if I steal that, it's going to take them 3 months to get everything fixed up. How are they going to pay the bills? How are they going to eat? I'll find a different target. So willingness, ego. At the end of the day, as an attacker, as a criminal, I have to believe that I can defeat a billion-dollar company or a billion-dollar security company. That is basically David versus Goliath. But here's the thing. I can be more than willing to commit any crime on the planet. I can have the biggest ego on the planet. But if I don't have the knowledge on how to commit that specific crime, I am useless. And that, along with the need to network with criminals, is why you see the dark web and surface web groups, the marketplaces, the forums. They exist so that those criminals can network with each other, and that so those criminals can learn from each other, so they can learn how to do those specific types of frauds and crimes. Today, for example, you can go on the dark web, you can go on Telegram. You can buy a tutorial for as low as $10 that teaches you step-by-step how to commit one specific type of fraud. If you're not comfortable with the tutorial, that's fine. You can take a live instruction class. A live instruction class, a master fraudster will take you by the hand, and they will walk you through one specific type of fraud. It costs anywhere from $300 to $3,000, and it comes with a guarantee. When this class is over, if you're not making money, I will refund you your tuition. And they mean it, because that's the way things operate today. You don't even have to do that if you don't want. You can simply hang out on the forums and ask questions, and typically someone will help you engage in the type of fraud or crime you want to commit. Another way to look at why attackers seek to victimize you is the MICE principle. Money, ideology, conscience, ego. Where are you motivated? Where is the attacker motivated? Is the attacker motivated by money, ideology, maybe some sort of conscience, or ego, or a combination of more than one of those? Me, I am mostly in ego and ideology. Third is money. Fourth is conscience, is with me. The MICE principle is what the CIA teaches that on how to work with operatives, things like that, and informants. So if you're looking at how to judge somebody, how to figure out their motivations. Mice does a pretty good job of that as well. All right? What you see is that cybercrime is not really rocket science. It's not really sophisticated. I know we see a lot of the media that's out there that says that, hey, you got to watch out for these hackers. You got to watch out for these hackers. They're untouchable. They're ghosts in the system. You ain't never going to catch them. They're computer geniuses. That's what most of the media talks about. 7,500 security companies out there say basically the same thing. They are untouchable ghosts in the system. That is not true. You have some of those types of attackers, 1% to 2%. The 98 to 99% of cyber criminals, and I don't use the word hackers, I use the word cyber criminals, the 98, 99%, they're just very good social engineers. They know what it takes to manipulate you into giving up information, access, data, or cash. All right? One of the things we hear about a lot of times in the media are zero-day attacks, these unknown vulnerabilities. How can we protect against something we don't even know about? I will tell you this. In my 20-year history as a cyber criminal, I had access to 2 0 days. That's an unknown vulnerability. That's an attack that only I know about. I had access to 2, only one of which resulted in profit, and that's over a 20-year span. Any criminal that's out there that's looking for a 0 day to profit will starve to death. What I am worried about, and what you should be worried about too, is this right here. 90% plus of every single attack uses known exploits. 90%. It's not the stuff we don't know about. It's the stuff we do know about, the stuff we've potentially been told about for years that causes the problem, the stuff we've not done anything about. 90%. I don't care if that's a nation-state attack. The 2 largest cyber attacks in history are NotPetya and SolarWinds. Both those attacks were launched by the Russian government. One is against the Ukraine country, the other one against the United States. SolarWinds is the backbone of the Fortune 500 companies in the United States. All right, the 2 largest attacks used known exploits. Not computer geniuses, known exploits. That's nation-state attacks. That's the people that are in their mom's basements that are stealing your credit card numbers. It's known exploits. 56% of companies have experienced a breach because of third-party access. Think about that. Your system at work or at home is only as strong as the weakest device which accesses it. That's what this basically means, all right? 56% of companies. Marriott got hit because of a third party that was accessing their system, their network. Most companies have no idea how many third parties are accessing their systems. Of those third parties which are accessing their systems, none of those third parties are vetted. This is what creates those problems online. 41% of every single router has the default password. 41%. That's at your house, that's at your bank. Any idea what you can do with a router with the default password? I mean, it's not pretty. I mean, it's pretty for the attackers. It's not pretty for the good guys. That doesn't even count the billions of IoT devices out there that are hard-coded or have the default password. 92% of every single breach begins with a phishing attack. Why? Why would I spend years trying to brute force my way past an industrial-proof firewall when the only thing I need to do is send an email to someone sitting behind that firewall? Saves me time, effort, money, gives me the exact same access. And how successful is phishing? Well, if you're talking spear phishing, if I'm looking to target you specifically, it's about 87% effective. 87%. I don't care. I do not care how much cybersecurity awareness training you've got, how rich, how poor, how educated, how uneducated you are. It's still 87% effective. Now, why is that? Some people say there is no patch for human stupidity. Now, that's a cute line, but that is not true. It's not true. It gets a chuckle, but it's not true. It's got nothing to do with ignorance. Nothing. It's got to do with an attacker who understands human psychology and technology enough to manipulate you into giving up information, access, data, cash. If you don't believe me, let's test it out. I've got 2 email addresses here. Don't worry, I'm going to blow them up here in a second. So the first is gollum@anglerfish.com. The second is gollum@anglerfish.com. First email address, blown up, gollum@anglerfish.com. Second email address, gollum@anglerfish.com. Can anyone see the difference between the two email addresses? Just scream it out there. The dot, somebody said dot on an I. Who said that? What is that? That is not an English alphabet I. It's not. That's been known about for years, though. We've known about that for a decade. That's what's called a Unicode domain. That's not an English alphabet I, but it registers just fine. Now, if you're an attacker, and I know you're checking your email using this thing right here, are you going to notice that a dot is not above an I? Probably not. If you're working payroll and you're going through 200 to 300 emails a day, are you going to notice that a dot is not above an I? No, you're not. But that right there, that we've known about for a decade, that's $7 million a day. That's $12 billion. That is the number one way that business email compromise is committed today. It's not the stuff we don't know about. It's the stuff we do know about, we're not doing anything about, that causes the problem. A lot of phishing attacks are all about identity theft. Shadow Crew, the group that I ran, was also a teaching environment. This is one of the top lessons that we taught. All crime should begin with identity theft. Why would I commit a crime under my name if I can do it under your name? Especially if you're local. That way it's kind of like early warning services. I get a warning, and I can move on to the next victim. All crime should begin with identity theft. What most attackers are looking for is PII, your credentials, your bank information, your credit card numbers, ways to get money from you is what they're looking for. Today, and I usually get this question in the presentation, what can we do to make sure that our information is not compromised? The answer is nothing. Nothing. Your information has been compromised for years. Last year alone, we had 2,570 reported breaches. Of those just reported breaches, 57 billion records compromised just last year. Everyone's information is available. If you can accept that, then you can ask the logical question, okay, since my information is available, what can I do to make sure a criminal can't use it if they get it? And we'll answer that, all right? Today, I can go on the dark web. I can buy someone's complete identity profile from a low of $30 to a high of about $140, depending on the gender, the credit score, location of the victim. Children are the number one victims of identity theft. 1 in 4, 25%. That's tax fraud, synthetic fraud, medical fraud. Today, I can buy a child's identity for $2.08. For that $2, I get the child's name, social, date of birth, mother's maiden name, place of birth, $2.08. Everyone's information is available. If I can't buy it ready-made, then I can make it. And there's a step-by-step. I go on the dark web. I buy your bank account details. For me to take over that account, I need your complete identity profile. If I can't get what's called TLO or Delve Point, which is skip tracing software that gives me a complete background check, then I need to do it manually. The way I do it manually, I go over to a website like robocheck.cm. It's a criminal database. Lists of social security numbers and dates of birth of 170 million Americans, $3.80 a piece. Buy your social, date of birth there. From there, I start using legal services, Ben Verified, Spokio, Intellius, White Pages Pro. I get your background check and the background check of every single associates of yours in the hopes of getting your mother's maiden name, which I'll get. Once I get that, it's time to get your credit report. Where do I go? Same place you go, annualcreditreport.com. Why? Well, they ask security questions, but there's no time limit on the security questions. So I can sit there with the background check, with Google, try to get the answers. If I don't get the answer, am I worried? No, I'm not. Because then I go over to Credit Karma, where they ask the exact same questions, except the answers are different, except for the correct answers. So now I've got your credit report. From there, LinkedIn to find out where you work, Glassdoor to find out how much you make, Facebook to find out if you've posted anything of interest, and that is your ass. I can do whatever I want to at that point in time. It's that easy. That takes about 20 minutes total. Everyone's information is available. I don't care. It's important you realize that. I don't care how rich, how poor, how educated, how uneducated, how important, how unimportant you are. To illustrate such, I have taken the opportunity to pulling up the information of one Donald J. Trump, because I too believe in making America great again. Hashtag MAGA, hashtag no one's safe, hashtag is that even legal? I don't know. But I do know that's his social security number. I know that's his date of birth, and I know that is $3.80. Everyone's information is available. And no, I am not political. I am not political. Well, Brett, it sure seems like you're political. No, I'm not political. To illustrate such, I have taken the opportunity of pulling up the information of the puppet master herself, Nancy P. Pelosi. Because, why not? Oh, wait a second, Brett. Okay, it's got her social there, but it don't have her date of birth. Oh, man. Where on earth can I find Nancy P. Pelosi's date of birth? How about a Google check? Everyone's information is available. It doesn't matter who you are. Everyone. So once I have your information, what can I do? Well, I can put it on a fake driver's license if I need to, go out and commit crimes with it. These days, I don't need a physical fake ID because most of the time I'm verifying ID online. I don't want my face on an ID, so this ID comes from secondeyesolution.ch. Costs $40. Looks great, passes all the background checks, any type of verification you need to as well. Looks good, $40. But wait a second, Brett. You know, a lot of these, you go to a bank, you go to a crypto company, PayPal, sometimes they want you to send a selfie in with the ID. How are you going to handle that? Do I look like I'm worried? No. Do I look like I'm worried? No. Pay this guy another $10, he'll take the selfie with the ID. You want to know why cybercrime succeeds? It's stuff like this, but it gets better. It gets better. Is there a security service that you're trying to bypass? If there is, just click the box. Criminals these days don't have to know anything in order to go in and succeed. I can set up PayPal, I can set up Coinbase, anything else, and bypass any security they've got with fake IDs for $50. That's why cybercrime succeeds. Okay? If you think about it, it boils down to trust. I heard the speaker before me, she was talking about trust. In order for me to victimize you, I must get you to trust me. In order for me to get you to give me information, access, data, or cash, I have to get that potential victim to trust me enough to do that. If I can't do that, that victim will not trust me. So how is trust established online? I would say that trust is established through technology, tools, social engineering. Technology. It's your cell phone, it's your laptop, it's your desktop computer. We inherently trust the technology which is given to us. We don't understand it a lot of the time, but we trust it. We trust the news that comes across the line. It's the problem with fake news, right? We don't verify. We just, oh, yeah, that worked, yeah. What we don't understand is that criminals use a variety of tools to manipulate that technology. They use spoofed phone calls, so you don't see the phone number that they're calling from. You see the phone number of your financial institution, the sheriff's office, the IRS, the Social Security Administration. They use SOX 5 proxies, so they may be physically located in Ghana, Nigeria, South America, Florida. They can make it appear that they're in Canada, Minnesota, California, wherever they want to make it appear. That tends to just open the door to the scheme or the fraud. It layers a base level of trust. Once that base level of trust is layered, once the door is opened, then we see how good of a con man, how good of a liar, how good of a social engineer that criminal is in manipulating you and giving up information, access, data, or cash. I'll give you an example. It's called an ATO, an account takeover. Excuse me. When I was a criminal, the types of accounts that we looked to take over, that we wanted, were bank accounts and credit card accounts. These days, most every account has value to a criminal. That's your merchant accounts, that's your credit reports, that's your tax records. Everything has value to a criminal. But back then, when I was a criminal, what we would do is I'd pick up the phone. I'd already have your complete identity profile, all right? I'd pick up the phone, I would spoof your phone number, and then I'd call into your financial institution. I'd call into your bank. when I'm calling in, your phone number is going to show up on the customer service agent's screen. Base level of trust, all right? I'm going to call in. I'm just going to ask one question. What's my available balance on the account? Customer service agent is going to ask me 2 questions. One of those questions is going to be mother's maiden name. Now, I've got your mother's maiden name, but I'm going to miss it on purpose, all right? I'm going to say any other name at all, but I'm going to say it with confidence. Johnson! I'm sorry, that's not what we've got, sir. Huh? Well, what do you got? Sorry, sir, we're not going to tell you what we've got. Well, look, I don't know what you got, but I know what my mom's name is. What are you guys even doing over there? So what happens at that point in time? At that point in time, customer service, they ask you 2 more questions, which I have the answers to. I get those questions right, then what happens? Then they change the mother's maiden name to whatever I want them to change the mother's maiden name to. As I'm hanging up, now that's not why I'm calling. The reason I'm calling is to take over the account. To take over the account, I need to make sure that the phone number on file is my phone number, not yours. So after I go through all that rigmarole, as the customer service agent is hanging up, oh, by the way, can you change my phone number that's on file? Yes, sir, we can do that. That's typically the way an account takeover, and it still works to that degree today. Why does it work like that? Okay, technology, tools, social engineering. Customer service trust the technology that's in front of them, that computer terminal. They trust all the information that's coming across the screen to be correct information. What that customer service agent doesn't realize is that I'm using a tool, a spoofed phone number, to manipulate that technology. I call in, they see the phone number that's on file calling into the account. Base level of trust already established. Now, if I were to call in immediately at that point and say, hey, I'm just trying to change my phone number, the chances of that customer service agent doing that is almost 0. They're going to boot me up to higher security. I want that customer service agent to do it. So what I do is I distract. I cause a diversion. I cause a problem. We fix the problem together, layering more trust along the way. I cause the problem by I don't know what my mother's maiden name is. I've got the wrong information. I fix that problem by answering more knowledge-based security questions, layering more trust with that customer service agent, distracting the customer service agent from my primary purpose of changing the phone number on file. Now, I know that that customer service agent probably gets 200 to 300 calls a day. Once they fix that problem of mother's maiden name, give me available balance, they're already looking forward to the next call. They've mentally disengaged from me. It's at that point there that I strike. Can you update my phone number on file? Yes, sir, we can do that. Now, how effective is that? It's so effective that I've actually done that before and been asked, why are you updating the phone number on file? And my reasoning has been, I no longer have that phone number. I no longer have the phone number that's showing up on the screen in front of the customer service agent. That's how this stuff works. A scam is successful because I'm trying to get you to react emotionally. I'm trying to make sure your reason, your logic is set to the side. You're giving me a knee-jerk reaction. You're responding to me emotionally. You're trusting me. That's how these things work and operate. The conclusion, we're all screwed. No, we're not. We're not. Just as cybercrime itself is not sophisticated, it's not really sophisticated to protect yourself from the type of person that I used to be. It's not. It starts with freezing the credit of every single person in the house. Everybody. Everybody. Credit freezes have been free since September 18th, 2018, thanks largely to AARP. Free. If you don't do anything else today, freeze the credit of every single person in the house, including children, because children are the #1 victims of identity theft, 1 in 4. It's free, all right? The sad thing about that, the United States population that has a credit freeze in place, 12.9%. So please, if you don't do anything else today, freeze the credit of every single person in the house. A credit freeze stops all new account fraud. Works great for kids. For adults, we've got existing accounts, existing credit cards, things like that. So you have to monitor accounts, place alerts on those accounts where you can. For example, Discover Card has a $0 alert, meaning that if I go on the dark web, buy your Discover Card for $12, you get a text message saying, hey, some idiot's trying to steal your card number. you can have it locked down at that point. So monitor accounts, place alerts, freeze credit. The big one, how many people use the same or similar passwords and logins across multiple websites? Come on, it's all right. It's all right. It's all right. It's like an AA meeting. Hi, I'm Brett Johnson. 80%. 80%. 80% of every single person on the planet uses the same or similar passwords and logins. The problem with that is if I send a phishing email that looks like it comes from Bank of America, your level of awareness is high enough that you're like, not going to fall for that. Obviously a phishing email. But what if I send a phishing email that looks like it comes from Hulu? Level of awareness is high? No. Probably going to look at it and say, Hulu? Anyone even watch Hulu? Only thing it got's The Handmaid's Tale. Second season sucked. And it did. It did. Anybody who's watching it, stop at the first season. It's horrible after that. The problem with, if you're using the same credentials, it's an automated attack for me. I go to sleep, plug in those credentials in the computer, it tries to log into tens of thousands of sites while I sleep. I wake up the next morning, I've got your bank account, your credit cards, your tax records, credit reports, Hulu account, everything that I need. The answer right now is a password manager. Password manager, authenticator program, something like that, okay? Understand your place in the cybercrime spectrum, because you have one. The way that I will victimize you absolutely depends on who you are and what you do. Absolutely it does. If you're CEO or payroll, I will attack you differently than if you've worked in the service industry for 20 years. I'll still get you. Understand why and how. Design security around that. Never act in desperation. I can't emphasize that enough. Desperation leads to poor choices. If you've got somebody on the end of the line and they're causing you to feel fear, anger, anxiety, stress, anything else like that, that should be a red flag from hell right there to hang up, especially if they tell you not to hang up. All right? Never react out of desperation or emotionally. So then it's important to take a step back, to try to gain some logic and some reason, to take a breath, count to 10. I'll call you back. That'll give you reason and time enough to think. Better yet, find a buddy. If you don't have a buddy, find an enemy. Sometimes the best friend in the world is your worst enemy. Call Joe down the street. Joe, I know you hate me. Does this sound right to you? And Joe's going to say, no, you're an idiot even for falling for that. Find a friend, if you don't have either. There's this great thing called AARP's Fraud Watch. I promise you can call them. They'll pick up the phone. They'll walk you through that scam, what you do, how to handle it, how to take care of everything that's going on right there. All right? Find a buddy, find a friend. Take a breath. Don't act in desperation. That's what's important about this stuff. Trust but verify. I can't really emphasize that enough. I don't believe in leading our lives paranoid and scared of things. I don't believe in that. I was a criminal for most of my life. But I can tell you that leading a paranoid or a life of fear that you're going to be victimized is not the way to live. Absolutely trust, but absolutely verify everything across the board. All right? That's the presentation. I want to end with 2 more points here. Always report to law enforcement. If you have the ability to press charges, always press charges. Regardless of whether you have the ability to press charges, always report to law enforcement. IC3, if you don't know who to report to, you can call AARP's Fraud Watch. They'll help you there as well. Report to your local police. Always report. It may seem like sometimes they're not doing everything they can. They do every single thing they can every single day. All right? It's just that they're overwhelmed by these numbers. And it's important that we build cases and get the correct data going to give these officers the correct information they need to press charges. All right? Finally, identity theft protection services, because I always get a question on that, and that's going to be the presentation. A lot of people ask, what about ID theft protection services? I don't have anything against them. All right? I believe that we need to take a proactive stance on our security. That's my first and foremost thought. It's not their accounts they're protecting. It's your account they're protecting. You should know what's going on with your account as well. If you can use a free service, by all means, use a free service. There are some free ones out there. If you will be to pay for one, if you find that a free service is not robust enough, make sure you do your research. Make sure that the data that they're pulling is real-time data. Make sure that whatever company you're signing on with has not been hit with a slew of class action lawsuits. Pick a legitimate company, all right? That is my presentation. I'm going to be hanging around to answer questions. I've got a gentleman back here raising his hand already.
Have you written a book or produced a CD that people can purchase?
I am writing a book right now, sir. Actually, I just signed the contract with my literary agent about 3 weeks ago, and we're going to have a book out hopefully in about a year, and then go from there. You can. That being said, I have a podcast, The Brett Johnson Show. I'm on AARP's podcast. I'm on one episode of that. I'm going to be on another episode in the near future as well. You're welcome to reach out to me on LinkedIn. You can find me on Facebook, anything else, and you can also rely on AARP's Fraud Watch as well. All right, anybody needs anything at all, I really do mean it when I say I'll help you to the best of my ability. I really do mean that, okay? Thank you so much.
Excellent. Thank you. Well, thanks very much, Brett. That was a fantastic presentation. Tons of great information, of course, but one I'll highlight, in my experience, is really important to understand that even though so much of our lives are automated and we're dealing online on the computer all day long, it's the attacker behind the technology that is victimizing, that are victimizing us. So it seems like the computer is very mysterious, but behind that screen is an attacker that's coming after us, attacking us as humans, not trying to break into the machine. I want to thank all of the organizations that made today's program possible. You saw them at the expo tables out in the lobby, and we're so glad to be back partnering with you and working together to fight all this fraud. Of course, the Better Business Bureau, our very excellent partner in putting on this event and so many over the years. Brett and Marit and Dr. DeLima, fantastic information. We thank you. And we thank the staff here at the event center. I think they did a fantastic job. So let's please give them a round of applause. Yeah, we appreciate the hospitality. Megan Hannon with the Better Business Bureau.